This is the compatibility list for the Nintendo Switch versus the Nintendo
Neat.
Switch 2. Over 15,000 partner games that they've tested and 122 Nintendo games, which makes me think I need to go back and look at my list to see what I don't have, because apparently I'm missing a few on this one.
You don't have 15,000 games, Jonas?
No, not 15,000, 122. These are the ones that are important down here, right here. Right there. This number right here, 122. I do not have 122. But looking at this list,
I mean, you're a completionist. I'd be more impressed if you had 15,000 other games.
There's so much garbage out there. What am I going to buy? Like Ninja Bread Man upgraded.
I mean, they did just re-release Big Rigs Over the Road Racing, right? So you got that one.
So many games that I don't have time to play. Looking at this, I was very curious. What is the compatibility issue? So as Jay referred to in the super chat, it's not quite emulation, but it's kind of emulation. The Nintendo Switch 2 has the same architecture but different mechanics. I'm not going to explain this well because I'm not a software or a hardware guy when it comes to the internals of a system. But there is something that is being referred to as a translation layer between a Nintendo Switch game and a Nintendo Switch 2 system. So it's doing some kind of on-the-fly translation of the game. So it's not emulation in the strictest sense. So it's not necessarily running an emulator, but it's kind of emulation anyways. Am I explaining that at all?
It's
correct,
close,
Loki?
Yeah. Basically, you've got the upgraded versions, which will be like Breath of the Wild, stuff like that. That should be native. From my understanding, those games that you get the update, you get an actual Switch 2 update, those will be native. The ones that aren't getting an upgrade, that's what they're going to use that translation matrix for. And that's what will be kind of half emulated, half running off of.
That's going to be so, and we got to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 editions, and that's coming right after this because it's part of this conversation, but it's also a little bit bizarre at the same time. So there are different kinds of compatibility that we're talking about here, and let's just get it out of the way. The game that is not compatible, it is one game. Can anybody guess what it is?
1-2 Switch.
Nope.
Ring Fit Plus.
You guys are getting closer. Those are kind of compatible.
Nintendogs.
Oh man, why did they stop doing Nintendogs? It is Labo Kit. Sorry, Nintendo Labo Toy-Con 04, the VR kit, and that is literally 100% a hardware reason because the Nintendo Switch 2 is too big to fit inside of the VR headset. So, despite the fact that they're going to be having upgraded visuals on Breath of the Wild, you're not going to be able to take advantage of it. For those of you who are not familiar with how the VR kit works, I have one over here. I've tested it a few times. You're literally holding a little cardboard thing with plastic lenses on it, and you go into VR mode and slip the Switch into it, and you are seeing Link, or in the case of Odyssey, Mario, and then the world behind them is 3D. So it's not like you're in a virtual reality world. You're seeing a stereoscopic 3D of whatever you're looking at while holding the Switch to your face on this little cardboard VR kit. It's very Nintendo, I have to say that. It is also half the resolution at which it should be. Even though it's right against your face, they're obviously cutting the resolution in half in order to have that binocular view and translate it into 3D. It would be interesting if they came up with a VR kit for the Nintendo Switch 2, but that being said, I don't think they're doing Labo ever again. But it's Nintendo. They're weird. Maybe they will. I can understand why this is not there. It's kind of a tragedy because I think they might actually be able to get full resolution with the fact that the Nintendo Switch 2 has better graphics. So tragedy, but I get it.
The VR stuff's not a huge hot seller. I mean, Sony's gone all in for a new helmet with PS5, but it's not like those are selling like hotcakes. You see one every time you go into your local Target or Walmart or whatever because they're just not flying off the shelves. Yeah, it's too expensive, and there's
too expensive, and it is like it. Look, as somebody who is a huge VR fan, own multiple VR systems, all I can say is I don't hardly use them anymore. Yep. I'll still maybe use Skyrim VR. You know, I played Fallout 4 in VR on the Vive. But I mean, absent the high quality headset and the high quality controllers, it's just not fun. And it's why nobody uses the kiosks in Vegas or, you know, any of the shopping malls anymore to do the VR experience. Because for a lot of people, it messes your brain up. So you either get nauseous or a headache or any number of other things. Plus, prolonged usage is not recommended.
I had an instance where
I got the MetaQuest specifically for work related stuff because I wanted to work in a cool virtual office, that was in a space station overlooking the Earth, and it was it was giving me such a headache I couldn't do it.
I got it for Elite Dangerous. I got mine for Elite Dangerous, but I mean, when you've got your pedals, you've got rudders, you've got your stick, you've got your throttle, you've got a headset, that takes up a lot of space. So where does mine sit? It's in a cabinet underneath my games over there.
Yep.
And that's where it lives. I don't even play Elite Dangerous anymore, so it doesn't come out anymore.
Before this room became my my library and my studio, it was the place where I did the VR.
Yep.
So I could walk around and have full and not, destroy things around me, which is the other problem with VR.
So I lucked into a conversation with somebody who was working with Oculus, and he wanted to test out average people on VR. And so he set it up, and I forget the specific game. One was a wizard game, which I did not like at all. It was, you were sitting on a platform and, you had to do certain hand gestures. Really not what I wanted to do. But there was one where, and this was before Ready Player One became a movie, you were like in a trailer and there was a little floating robot getting you. It was basically a tutorial for VR, but I ended up talking to the little robot. It was very immersive. It was very fun. And I could see why it could be a problem if they let you work in a space like that, like a hyper reality. Like if I'm not going to do my taxes in VR. I might do some editing in VR if I'm in a space where I don't have a screen and I want a screen, but the use cases are really not there. That being said, let's get back to Nintendo if you guys don't mind. The games that are somewhat compatible, because the Joy-Cons will still work with the Nintendo Switch 2, the Joy-Con ones, which we're going to call them now. Ring Fit Adventure, 1-2 Switch, and Everybody 1-2 Switch. Game Builder Garage, which I have a feeling that they're transferring Game Builder Garage over because they're going to integrate Game Share into it. Nintendo Switch Sports, WarioWare Move It, and the other Nintendo Labo kits here. So these are all, when looking at all of these are Joy-Con size related issues or Joy-Con hardware related issues here. So this makes
what's even the point of buying a Switch 2 at this point, guys? If you can't play 1-2 Switch.
1-2 Switch is fun. I'll defend it. It's not a video game in the strictest sense. It's a fun party game, but it is really not a video game in the usual
I mean,
sense.
if I can't play Wario Move or whatever the hell that was called, what am I dropping this money for?
By the way, I think Best Boy worked on my last film. WarioWare Move It, I think, is like $30 or $35 at Best Buy right now. I don't think it's even the best of the WarioWare games on the Switch. But
oh gosh,
but here
is that
we
what
are.
I look like? Is that what I look like at the gym? I wonder.
Let's see.
I do actually appreciate the transparency though here by Nintendo. Like they're actually explaining the individual reasons for each game, as they should be, because a competent company, you'd expect that. And you can have like the 360 where, some of the games work, some of the games don't. And you go to a used game store and you're like, do half of the original Xbox games even work for my system? Where it seems like it's more of the niche games here that are kind of like something you'd expect to have some kind of issues going into the new hardware. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah. And speaking of hardware, I'll throw this on here. The Nintendo Switch 2 is not compatible with the original dock. That's a side issue, by the way. The original power adapter, they're saying that you can get some charge out of it, but it's not possible to run it in TV mode using that power adapter because it's just not powerful enough. The HDMI cable, I think technically works, but you're not going to get the graphical fidelity. And
It's
also
not a 4K. I don't think it's a 4K cable.
Yeah. because all they have to do is 1080, and that thing is supposed to be doing it. I don't know, the cable thing. I think there's a lot of people who won't even understand the difference, right? Because they'll just be like, oh, well, it plugs here, it plugs that. That's the problem with HDMI. It's not a real problem. It's like a turning motion smoothing off on your parents' TV kind of problem. They don't understand that the movie is not supposed to look that way. And then the other is the micro SD cards. The current micro SD card that you probably have in your Nintendo Switch right now is probably not going to work on the Nintendo Switch 2. That and I did a way too deep of a dive on the micro SD situation. The micro SD Extreme, any word other than Express is not going to work on a Nintendo Switch 2, except for displaying your screen captures and videos taken on a Nintendo Switch. So completely lame, but there we go. Oh, and for Nolan's sake, yes, the Nintendo GameCube controller adapter will work.
Yes. This controller is surviving 20 something years. It's so beautiful.
It is a work of art, and it deserves to live on forever. I've got so many tabs open here. I gotta fix this. Okay, so then here's the next thing: is we have, if you put a Nintendo Switch cartridge, certain Nintendo Switch cartridges will get an automatic upgrade of some kind when you put it into a Nintendo Switch 2. And it's not going to be the same for every system. Okay, Super Mario 3D World, Super Mario Odyssey, the toy-like Legend of Zelda games, that's Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, sorry. That's also, let's see, Wii U game. That's not a Wii U game.
No, that was a 3DS game, wasn't it?
Which
World?
ones? 3D Land
3D
was the 3DS game. And
okay, well, it's a remake of it, right?
No, it's a totally new game that happens to be the play on that. And man, rest in peace, King 3D Land. That's a fun game. One of the best uses of 3D on the system, in my opinion, because you actually know where he's about to land. So a lot of these, you would think it's just screen share. But go ahead. Was somebody about to pop in there?
Oh no, I wasn't going to, but while I have the mic here, I just wanted to say, like, when you see all these games out here, New Super Mario Brothers U, how are they going to upgrade that game? The game looked the same as it did on the Nintendo DS. Like, what more can they do in this free update?
They got two options. They got unlocking frame rates, which I think that's probably what it is. If the frame rate isn't locked, they will just automatically upgrade that. The other is, and I've got my list of free updates on my Twitter, my X. But if you look, there's a list of them that are not game share. Most of the updates are going to be game share, and that is the paid game chat feature. Sorry, no, game share you can do from a Nintendo Switch 2. I'm sorry, I was getting my game chats and my game shares mixed up because, again, Nintendo doesn't do themselves any favors. These are the ones that are not not game share. So I'm actually kind of surprised that Game Builder Garage isn't. ARMS, The Legend of Zelda's, Game Builder Garage, New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. This could just be graphical updates, but they're saying they're getting add-ons, features, and things like that, unspecified, free, or, well, it's a $450 system, so I don't know if the word free is quite correct. So they will be upgrading some things, but we don't know what. Metroid Prime Beyond, I think, is going to be the big one for the Nintendo Switch 2 edition because the graphics will be better. And I don't like mouse functionality on console games. I prefer to keep my PC Master Race separate from my console gaming, but okay. You can seamlessly switch between the mouse mode and the regular controller mode on Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. The graphics are a lot better. If you look 1-to-1, like it is a very different experience on the graphics between the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm very curious what happens if it is on a cartridge, the upgrade pack. What happens when you put a Nintendo Switch 2 edition cartridge of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond into a Nintendo Switch? And when parents ultimately get confused when they say, well, this Switch 2 game works on my Nintendo Switch. Why doesn't this Switch game work on my Nintendo Switch 2 or 1? So.
Well, you had the packaging up earlier. Didn't it say that it was going to be bundled with both versions of the game? Am I wrong on that?
Yes, but if they're all on one cartridge and that Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge works on a Nintendo Switch 1, I think this creates even more confusion when you get a parent who's not paying attention taking a Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge and putting it in a Nintendo Switch 1. So does it look like a Nintendo Switch 1 cartridge, or does it look like a Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge? Which, if it's Metroid Prime, I would prefer it look like a Nintendo Switch 2